If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get-started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/audio.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. Okay, today I was contacted by this a lovely young woman here from the Las Vegas area, Ariana Deats. And her website is theindiemag.com. And she wants to share with us her story about growing up in the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, Ariana, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. And so tell us about yourself. Who is Ariana Deats?
I'm a local person living here in Las Vegas. I'm a mom. I run my own business, 2 businesses, actually. I do a nonprofit magazine where we love to feature the local talent here in Las Vegas, from photographers to musicians to artists, anything. We love to feature them. And I run another business, a fashion website, where I make some really fun handcrafted items.
Ariana's website, and by the way, her husband is an incredible photographer. Ariana is a beautiful model here. They do incredible, and she's an artist too. She makes these handbags and jewelry and stuff like that. Really, really incredible stuff. Is it okay if I plug the website real quick?
Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
Theoddportrait.com. Check it out. Really, really good stuff. Great photography, great modeling, and purses and handbags and jewelry. Perfect for cartking.com. I got to hook you guys up. So tell us,
thank you.
What happened? You were born into, your parents were Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yeah, it's largely a generational thing. A lot of people are born into it. My mother, she was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My father, he became a Jehovah Witness around 20 years of age. So then when I came along, that's all I've ever known. That was everything. My entire life is encompassed by this community, by this culture, everything.
And where was this? Was this in Las Vegas?
I was born in Santa Rosa, California, the northern part of California.
Okay.
And then around 10 years of age, my family wanted to be closer to a Watchtower headquarters. So they moved to New York, and we lived down the street from Watchtower Farms, which was in Walk Hill, New York. So we were in the center hub of the activity of everything, about this religion.
And why don't you explain? See, I know what the Watchtower is because my brother became a Jehovah's Witness. My brother, Rennie, from California. I tell the story to the audience who remember the story I tell about visiting my brother in California. And he took us on this camping trip, and he was turned on the gas, and I thought he was going to blow the place up. And so I just kind of, I hate to admit it, but I just kind of walked away, and I said, listen, I can't save these people. I'm going to save myself. I thought he was going to blow up the whole campsite. But the Watchtower is like a monthly or a weekly newsletter that the Jehovah's Witnesses publish and mail to your home?
Since I've left, they've changed things. It used to be they had the Watchtower and they had the Awake. Both
right.
Came out twice a month, but I do believe it's been a while. It's been out for about 6 years. They've changed it. It's now one a month, one awake and one watchtower. The awake is typically the one they start out with when they come knock on your door on a Saturday morning. It'll usually be that one that you'll see first.
Right. And now, so most people who hear Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll think, well, this nice family, or these two men in white shirts will come knock on my door and want to talk to me about the watchtower or awake. What's wrong with that?
For the most part, I will say this. They are very nice, well-meaning people. They're some of the best people I've actually personally ever known in my life. I would still to this day speak highly about the majority of them. There's just a few things that they haven't handled, that they've been actually, blatantly pretty much negligent on. And that would be the issue of them allowing child molestation to go on in the community and not taking the proper steps to report it, to stop it, and things like that, which is a huge issue that they need to address. They need to make change.
Now, why would that be? Because I know these are real law and order types, and they really do want, their observations of biblical practice and stuff like that, religious practices, is very strict. They observe everything. They wouldn't even have birthday cakes or birthday parties and things like that. They don't celebrate holidays, pagan holidays, or Christmas. Only one version of the Bible, the King James Bible. They don't even want to touch anything else. Oh, wait, is that right? Is it King James Bible, or do they have their own version?
No, they have their own version. It's the New World Translation. So yeah, they translated their own version of the Bible. Right,
I forgot about that. Right, they got their own Bible. Right, because I used to do street.
Confusing.
Yeah, no, I actually used to do street evangelism. And I used to debate with them, all the time, and they had their own. Yeah, they had their own little Bible. Now, but they're very observant of these biblical laws and stuff like that, and American laws. They're very patriotic and all that kind of stuff. Why wouldn't they want to do the right thing when it comes to child abuse?
Well, they actually have a non-political stance, and they feel that God's law trumps what we were raised to call the secular law. So it would be the police, the government, anyone. So they are trained, we're trained from youth on that we show the proper respect to the authorities, but if it conflicts with God's law in any way, God's law will always trump that. And one of the things that they take as a law in the scriptures is something called the two-witness rule. They feel that if there is not two witnesses that come forward about such a thing as child molestation, then the issue will be put to rest. If the person that is being accused does not confess, they will not do anything. And for the most part, people are not encouraged to go to the authorities and report these acts. So there's been a rampant cycle of abuse that has completely spiraled out of control. I don't know if you've heard or seen the news headlines, but we just saw that in Australia, the Royal Commission launched an investigation into Watchtower for the allegations and unreported crimes of sexual abuse in the community. There were over 1,006 children that had been molested by known child molesters in the Jehovah Witness community.
1,000 children just in Australia?
Just in Australia.
Okay. And how many Jehovah's Witnesses do you think there are in Australia?
I was trying to look that up. I was trying to get an accurate number on it. And I couldn't find the link. I found one, but it wasn't very clear.
Okay, so now you're saying that before they can accuse somebody or discipline somebody for abusing children, they would need two witnesses. And in a situation where a child is being, the child goes to maybe the mother for help or whatever, something like that, or a teacher, and doesn't have two witnesses, it just ends right there?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I mean, in my case, things were a little bit different. In my case, two little girls, one age 5 and one age 10, came forward. They went to the elders. They accused this person. He actually confessed. They said, okay, well, we feel that you're really sorry for what you did, so we won't disfellowship you. It's okay. You can stay in the congregation. We'll just take away a few of your privileges. Like he couldn't run the microphones down the aisle when people would comment during the congregational meeting. So they took away things like that. So during that time period where he just had those privileges removed, he was still actively involved with the other children in the congregation, even though the men, the elders of the congregation, knew what he was and what he had done. So during that time period was the time period that I was molested by him. And then when I finally chose to go forward, the elders met with him and they said, well, we're very unhappy that you lied to us, so we will now disfellowship you for lying. So he was never disfellowshipped for harming children. It was a bigger crime in their way of thinking that he had lied to the elders. So it really had nothing to do with what he had done to us as children, but it was the fact that he lied about it.
Can you describe what you mean by disfellowship?
Disfellowshipping is, there's many different terminologies for it. The Amish community uses the term shunning. It's when your family has to treat you like you're dead. They can't speak to you. They can't eat a meal with you. And the rest of the people in the congregation that are baptized Jehovah Witnesses are not allowed to have anything to do with you.
Right. So just imagine you start off, because you kind of shut off from the rest of the world as it is, because you only want to have fellowship with people that are like-minded believers. The only time you talk to strangers is when you're trying to give them a watchtower.
Yep.
And you're working with these people, you go to church with them, you're meeting with them, you're hanging out with them, they're the Little League coach, all this stuff. And then suddenly you're being told if you've broken a rule of the church, you're going to be disfellowshipped and basically shunned by everyone you know. Even your own wife and kids.
Yeah. Parents can't speak to their children. Brothers and sisters can't speak to their other siblings. It's pretty extreme. I personally went through it myself, so it was hard. It was very hard.
So now you went through this fellowship because you objected to the way things turned out with your crime?
Yeah, I stayed with it for many years after that. That happened when I was around 8. And I recently, as in 6 years ago, left and never went back, but I was disfellowshipped for a year prior to that. And then I did the whole process of going and trying to get reinstated just so my family could speak to me.
So, and do you talk to your parents and your brothers and sisters now?
Yes. Yeah. My family were extremely close, despite the fact that they're still very heavily involved. My father's an elder. My mother's a pioneer. But yeah, we're very close. It's hard. It's interesting, but we still communicate, and I see them once a week.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh, that's good. They live here in Vegas now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Okay, now, what happened to these other two little girls, the 5-year-old and the 10-year-old?
They both left a long time before I ever did. They were the ones that told me. I learned all my information from them about what had happened. I had no idea that he had been a known molester. I had no idea that he was disfellowshipped for lying. And then I sourced that information from the elders that were on that gentleman's committee. So I fact-checked everything, and they're doing good. I'm still in contact with one of them. She's actually my best friend. She's an amazing person, but she has absolutely nothing to do with the Jehovah Witness community whatsoever.
And what was this guy's role in the church that he had access to children?
He was what we call a ministerial servant, which is a step below an elder. So he had special privileges. He was, I would say, looked up to and had a level of authority. And yeah, I mean, we're taught as Jehovah Witnesses, we are very segregated from the rest of the world. We would call people that weren't Jehovah Witnesses terms like they were worldly. They were bad association. They were frequently referred to as goats while we were referred to as sheep. So the only contact we had in socialization was with other people in the congregation. So it was a very small, tight-knit community. Everyone had everyone over their homes. We were always constantly doing things with each other, and he was always around all the children, of course, figure out after why. And yeah, I was over his house many, many times. He was a looked up to individual.
Okay, so you basically went over there for like a sleepover to hang out with his kids?
He didn't have any kids. He was the brother-in-law. At that time, he didn't have any children. He was the brother-in-law of my best friend. And since I was always with her, he was always there. He lived with them for a while, so there was an abundance of contact.
Okay, when he abused you, did you first go to your best friend or go to your parents?
I went to my mother first. My mother was the first person I went to when it happened. I approached her, and was like, I'm not sure if this is a big deal. I don't know what happened. I don't understand. And I told her. She kind of flipped out, ran and grabbed my father, told my father. My father's first action was to call the elders in the congregation. Then they told him to call Watchtower Society. He called Watchtower Society to try to get some direction on what he should do. They basically said, you can report it if you want, but you don't have to, and so on. And then after that, the individual who had done this, the molester, he was disfellowshipped, but no one at this point had yet to report him. No one reported him to the secular authorities. So after a period of around three or 4 months, I started missing a number of days in school. My mother got called into the school and they asked her what's going on. Why is there an issue? Why isn't she here? She felt like she had to tell them what was going on. Then they contacted the police for us because it was mandatory that they report it. So they were the only ones that honestly felt the need to report this.
And you're 8 years old at this time.
Yes.
That must have been horrible, right?
It was difficult. I didn't really fully understand everything at the time. Things, definitely, as you grow, you see things in a different perspective and you realize,
Yeah, especially when you grow up and you have your own kids, and you kind of say, what the hell were my parents thinking? What the hell? What, they let me.
You really do.
Yeah, they got so mad at the littlest things. They let me do these crazy things. What were they thinking? I would have been better off with wolves.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big turning point for me. Was when I had my child. I said, I am not. There's so many things wrong. There's so many things I don't agree with. The way they treat women, the way they treat children. I will not have my child raised in something like this. So I made the decision that I'm done.
Now, did your parents get any trouble for neglect or for not protecting you?
No, none whatsoever. It's still up to the parents, I think, even to this day, of whether they want to report it or not. I'm hoping that changes. I'm hoping a lot of things change.
Now, what about the elders of the church? Aren't they mandatory reporters as well?
It varies state by state. And if they are not mandated to report it in the Jehovah Witness community, they don't typically, from what I've experienced personally and from what I've heard from others, they don't typically care to report it. And that's what came out in Australia.
Mm. Well, that would seem like a simple matter, right? If you're like a head of a youth group or a Sunday school, you should be a mandatory reporter. Why not?
I know, it would really help it. And then there's another issue that happened that the Watchtower Society is holding on to all of their records of accused child molesters that they are refusing to release. They've actually paid up to $2 million in fines for not releasing these records, which could potentially stop the cycle of abuse from continuing. So it's completely baffling at this point of why they're refusing to work with authorities and that they're not trying to stop this horrific issue from just snowballing out of control.
Okay, let's take a little commercial break. We're here with Ariana Deats, who is a survivor of childhood abuse at the hands of this Jehovah's Witness elder. But, good news is she's turned out really cool. She's like a really cool person. Got this really cool website. An artist, man, raising a kid. She's happily married. I've been talking to her 20 minutes before the show started. So thank God for that, man. Now, when you finally went to the school counselor got involved, did the police get involved then? Was he charged at that time?
Yes. I had to go down to the police station. I had to speak with a police officer who was amazing. He was really trained, knew how to handle the situation, which was refreshing. He took my report. Charges were then brought against the individual. He was convicted and sent to jail. Oh, great. For how long? I think it was 3 years. Yeah, but that's typical. People usually, child molesters serve 3 years of an 8-year sentence. That's the average sentence in the United States here. So you see these memes on Facebook and stuff like that, people saying, do you believe they should get the death penalty? They're not even getting 10 years. They're out in 3 years. It's alarming. Yeah, it's a little scary when you think about it, because the lifelong damage that they've inflicted upon their victim, it's astronomical that the short sentence that they've had to live doesn't even match up to what the survivors have to go through for the rest of their lives. That's so true, for whatever kind of obsession, compulsion you have, because it's more than sexual gratification. You got to stop and think, when you're targeting little children, the kind of damaging effect you can have on the rest of their life. It's just not, it's not the right thing to do. Now, here you got a conviction out of this guy. There's two other witnesses, two other victims at least. Have you considered a lawsuit against the church? I actually did, because I wanted to continue to apply pressure to Watchtower to force change and to try to force them to release those records. Right. So I sit and think to myself, how many more children have had to go through this because I haven't said anything all these years. I was constantly my whole life told not to speak about these things, and I was counseled with scriptures, told that this could spiritually stumble someone, so you don't want to talk about it. You need to kind of keep this on the down low. And the cycle and the perpetuation of silence that was just kind of forced upon us was astronomical. So I contacted a law firm in San Diego who specifically deals with issues of abuse in the Catholic religion and the Jehovah Witnesses. It was Zulkin Law Firm. They are fantastic, amazing. It was so easy talking to them because they knew how the entire system worked. They knew all the terminology. So it was very easy for me to tell my story and not have to explain everything in every position. Unfortunately, due to the statute of limitations, I could not proceed any further with the action. So now I'm speaking out on my own with potential great cost to myself and my life, but it has to be said, it has to be done. We need change. We need all the victims that have been affected by this to come forward so we can get a real idea of what the numbers actually are. We need to keep applying pressure to Watchtower, keep this in the media, keep this in the headlines so they are forced to change and hopefully get those records released so we can put a stop to this. How long ago was that you met with those lawyers? Because I think they've changed that statute of limitations law. It was about 2 years ago. Okay. Yeah, I'll double check on that and get back to you. Now, what about yourself? Have you gone through any therapy or anything like this? Yeah, I've had, it's been rough. To put it nicely, it's been a long battle. That wasn't the only case of abuse that I went through in that organization. So it was it's been difficult, but art, fitness have all really helped. They big keys to survival.
I would agree with diet, good health. Definitely, these things are all you want to get your head straight, So,
Oh, yeah.
But you're saying that after you were molested at 8 years old, there was another incident within the church?
It was actually before that, but I didn't come forward about that till many years later due to the severity of it and the threats that were put on me for it. So that one I've not pushed forward on and deliberating and debating on how to move forward or proceed with that one. It's a little larger of an issue to tackle, so we'll see.
Okay, but that person has not received any kind of justice?
No, they have not.
Okay. Now, what would you tell parents how to handle this type of situation if their kids come to them and say, hey, I just had this incident with this man?
Please report it to the authorities. Do not call your local elders first. You need to call the police first. They are trained to deal and handle these things, as where the elders are not. They are not trained to handle this. They are not investigators. They are not law enforcement. You need people that are specifically handle these types of issues, and it needs to be reported.
Has anyone from the church ever come to you and apologized to you?
Never. I've actually, the stance they're taking right now by one of the governing body who recently released a broadcast on jw.org, his name is Stephen Lett. He recently deemed it that it is an apostate lie that they protect child molesters. So in essence, he's kind of put a target on people like me. He's kind of put a target on our backs for speaking out about this by deeming it that it's apostasy.
But they're not claiming that the specific incident that happened to you and these two other little girls is an apostasy.
They're claiming that anyone that says that they allowed child molesters to remain in the congregation is an apostate lie that they're being persecuted for currently in the headlines.
Gotcha. Okay, and this guy who abused you, after he went to prison, like we said, for 3 years, when he came out, did he go right back to that church?
Yep. He got reinstated shortly or somewhere around that time. And every time I went back to California to visit, every time I saw him, he was on a playground with children.
Really?
Yep.
Wait a second. What about he's got to still be on a parole because sex offenders have to check in. They have to register. They have to check in. Did you ever report? Did you ever report him for that? That you can get him violated.
I was young at the time, and I didn't know that I could do that. I kind of was reeling from the fact that everyone around me was watching this, and everyone was okay with it. And I understand. I was constantly told, you need to forgive, you need to move on. He's one of our brothers, so it was complicated. Had I been who I am now, first thing I would have done was been dialing that phone. Yeah,
because you figure you're probably about 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Right. You're not. Yeah. Because you figure you're probably about 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Right. You're not. And you can't be expected to know that kind of stuff. Okay.
If I could go back, I would. Yeah. I greatly wish I would have done that.
Yeah. I think though, if he's still alive now and he's still around kids, that would probably be a violation.
I would hope so. I hope it's a lifelong violation.
Well, you got his name. Send me his name and stuff. I want to take a look into this guy and see if we can screw him up. Now, what caused you to leave the church? Because you left on your own, or you got disfellowship first?
I did. Being disfellowshipped was kind of like what broke it. Because having seen a child molester go unpunished and not even be excommunicated, and then my having to face disfellowshipping, it just seemed a little hypocritical, and just the entire way in which my disfellowshipping was handled. I've been taught my entire life that disfellowshipping is unrepentant, bad people who need to be taken out of the congregation because they're going to bring everyone else down. They're bad association. They're not good. They need to be disciplined so that they can come back into the fold. So to be labeled that, it was, and to have seen what I saw previous, it was difficult. And then the entire process of having to go to get reinstated, it had nothing to do with my not being repentant. It was more like, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Scarlet Letter. It was more an example how to be made out of me, so none of the other women would fall out of line, as opposed to anything to do with whether I was sorry for what I did. It was, no, you need to put her in the center so all our women folk see what she did was wrong, and she needs to be out of the church for this predetermined amount of time to pay for her sin. And so it was a eye-opening experience, to say the least, and I am very disappointed in myself that I had ever taken part of doing something like that to someone else. So anyone that I ever treated that way or followed that type of thinking, I gravely and sincerely apologize. It's not a right thing to do or how to treat people, and I'm sorry.
I don't think anybody can blame you for that. You know, you were young and you were in this cult where everybody's doing the same exact thing. You think it's normal, you know, it's just it's just your surroundings, you know what I mean? It's your environment. Now, but you were disfellowshipped on charges related to being molested at 8 years old?
No, it had nothing to do with it. It wasn't until I was much older. I had married a witness. He was physically abusive, and after 8 years, I finally developed the courage to leave him, and I wanted to leave the truth, and I met someone else, and I started dating that person, and I was disfellowshipped for that.
Okay, so basically because you wanted to get a divorce and you wanted to be with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much. Okay.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the story with your parents? They're still in right now?
Yeah, my father is an elder, and my mother's a regular pioneer.
And what about brothers and sisters?
Very active.
You got any brothers or sisters still in there?
I have a sister who's still one of Jehovah's Witnesses, yes.
Okay, now, after you've left, because of this horrific experience, a series of horrific experiences, really, how about, what's your faith today? Do you have any kind of faith today?
I'm just kind of anti-religion. I don't really have any faith at all. I kind of just take the concept, I am going to be the best person I can possibly be the best mother I can possibly be. Whatever you put out into the universe, you know, you want it to be good. You want to treat people kind and respectful. And if you can do those basic fundamental things, nothing else really matters.
Yeah, the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Me and my daughter, we just did this thing recently where we've been visiting like different churches every week, you know, and, you know, some of them are crazy. You know what I mean? Some of them are like, this ego trip going on, man, with this wacky stuff. And it's just unbelievable. They're asking for money every 10 minutes. But there's, you know, some of them are great, man. Some are really cool people, you know.
Yeah, I think everyone's got to find their own path in life. Yeah. And we're so vastly different. Everything about us is different from each other. What works for one person is not going to work for another person. And I think as long as you're good and kind to people, what works for you really shouldn't matter. I don't care. As long as you're nice, you know, you obey the fundamental basic laws, we're good. Please do what you need to do. It's all good.
Is there anything in this story that I've forgotten to ask you that you'd like to share with us?
The only thing is if there's any other people that have been affected by this, please, if you can, come forward. If you're too frightened, I completely understand. Just know that you do not stand alone. We stand beside you, and we will stand for you. And we're gonna get change. So hang in there.
And would you recommend people to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, whether or not that they were affected by this type of molestation?
I think that's an extremely personal decision. I would hope that they would educate themselves a little bit about what their beliefs are and then make a decision according. Religion is such a personal choice.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, Ariana Deats, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No, thank you so much for having me on here and letting me get this message out. It really means the world.
No, thank you so much. I know it's a difficult topic to talk about, but you're a wonderful, wonderful woman. Ariana Deats, you can check her out at theindiemag.com. I'm going to hook her up with those Cart King guys because we're going to start selling her purses and stuff with this other website. Okay. What is this other one here? It's called theoddportrait.com. Really incredible photography. Your husband's an excellent photographer. Is that what he does for a living?
No, he's actually a web designer.
Well, two excellent artists here, and she's a model, he's a photographer, and advocates for children here. Thank you so much, Ariana Deats.
Thank you.